Everyone, stop what you're doing. No other words are necessary. The mustache is gone. The CGI mustache is gone. Please stay tuned because it can only go uphill from here.
Our Lord and Savior came through. He shaved it off.
Our Lord and Savior, Zack Snyder, a.k.a. The Barber, has now trimmed all the unnecessary fat and finally given us the best DC movie that we could have ever asked for. Yes! Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nerd Culture. And you are watching another one of our live streams with my buddy, Nick, the DC nerd of old. I guess. I don't know. I'm giving it to him now, but we are here to finally talk about the Justice League. And I want to say full disclosure. Yes, it's been out for a little over a week now, but we're doing this now for two reasons. One, because, we wanted to make sure that we had time for everybody to get a chance to watch it because, this is going to be spoiler heavy. So if you're watching this on any platform, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, all that, click away now because spoilers are going to be here every single second. Also, it's because we're lazy. And after we watched it, we just decided to be happy on our own time until we had no choice but to do it. So we're jumping right in and we're going to be talking about it.
The best was I was at home when it came out and I was like, I'll wait till I get back to school because I want to watch it in peace. I
was so disappointed in you.
No, because my parents aren't into it. And I was like, I'm not going to make them watch a 4-hour movie.
This is like, this is a film where even if it's your parents' house, you're just like, listen, I know you live here and I'm just like a visitor, but I get this room because this is important to me. I'm like, it's just a movie. But no, it's like the Bible being rewritten. This is changing history.
This will always hold a great place in my heart. I absolutely love this movie. But my problem is my parents couldn't even get through Inception. I turned off Inception in the first scene because they asked too many questions.
No, but that's fine. That's fine because Inception, that's a whole mental thing. Even I, as a movie buff, probably had questions about it that I asked at the end. But this one's just like, well, if you don't know DC, the most irritating thing that can happen is you're watching it and somebody's like, who's that guy in the cape? I'm like, which one? The one that dressed like a bat, I guess. Batman? Well, that's not really original. Shut up, Mom!
It's like, oh, what does he do? It's like he has lasers. Oh, but he's not shooting anything. Well, he's not doing it right now.
It's like, oh, this guy's dangerous. He's got laser eyes, but his eyes look normal to me. He has the ability to use it when he wants. Thank you.
God.
And then he finally uses it in a really epic moment. And he's just like, are those the laser eyes? I'm like,
yes, Mom.
What's that guy in the red do? He runs really fast. Well, he's moving slow on screen. I don't understand. I'm like, it's manipulation of time. God, that'd be the most irritating question. I will say this, we're going to get into every character, but I also always did appreciate how Flash ran because he's still the new kid on the block. So he doesn't have his form down yet. So you kind of see him when he's starting off, he's waving. He's kind of like a first time swimmer, just kind of pushing through the waves. That sort of thing.
I don't know because it's like you watch the Flash show, they're running like this. You see all the others, they're running like this, and then you see Ezra Miller just like.
Yeah, I know, but honestly, in comparison, I kind of I'm just saying I know what he's doing. I think that was a creative choice just because he hasn't gotten it down yet. But also, you got to admit the CW stuff. I mean, I do it as a joke every time. Yeah. The whole. It's a little goofy. There's no way to really pull it off without it not looking ridiculous.
It looks bad. It looks bad on CW.
Yeah. But I mean, how do we start this? There's so much to talk about. There's so much to cover. I mean, for starters, before we break into it, I mean, 4 hours. Yeah. 3 hours and 52 minutes. This is what we're looking at for the Snyder Cut film.
Who knew you could have fulfilling arcs for 5 different characters just because you added 2 extra hours?
I would have believed it because most things can be achieved in the regular span of a movie, which is an hour and a half to 2 hours and stuff. So the fact that they gave him more time, I was confident. I'm like, if they give me 4 hours and they still can't better develop these characters, then you're doing something way too wrong because that's always the problem. You can't develop a character because you don't have time to put it in because you have to cut it so short for theatrical release. And I think that's one of the many problems that happened with the original version of the Justice League. So I'm glad that finally got its time here. And a lot of people are arguing saying like, does a movie really need to be 4 hours? And that's like the
Hell
biggest
fucking
bashing
yes.
point towards it. I'm
Hell
like,
yes.
for people that care about it, yes. And plus, given the fact you have, let's count up on the screen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 individual characters that basically need to have their own time on screen to be able to kind of establish themselves in the current position of the story that they're in. And then a lot of new characters coming in. We need to see their backstory and everything. We need that time in order to get familiar with that character, so that way we can understand them as like not only a character but as a human being, and what their struggles are and why they're doing what they're doing. That way everything they do down the road makes sense to us and it pays off a little bit better. And that's personally one thing I want to talk about, why I like this film so much, because I felt like with some characters, specifically Cyborg and Flash, there was a lot more development there. So I actually loved them a lot more in this film than I did in the Snyder Cut, because like they were just passerbys in the original, but in this one, like I understood them more. I got more. There was still some humor in this, but like I actually thought like
the
Barry
humor
was
that's what I liked. The humor was so much more well written. In the last one, it was like way forced. It didn't and it just didn't land half the time. With this, it was such subtle stuff, and it made them grow closer. Actually, like when one I remembered was when Flash and Cyborg were digging, and Barry was so Wonder Woman, you think I'm a little too young for her? And Cyborg literally is just like, she's 5,000 years old, Barry. Everyone's a younger guy.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's stuff like that. Like it's not elaborate. The problem with the original Justice League and this one, I mean, it's debatable. People probably say the opposite of what I am, but I felt there was just enough humor in this one. There was like a couple of sprinkled in moments just to break up the monotony of how dark everything is, which I personally love the darker aspects of superheroes.
I loved it.
And I think it very much leered away this time around from the deliberate, like trying so hard to be deliberately funny that it felt out of place in the original cut and kind of corny. Now here it felt like it fit better, and it felt like it was more natural flowing. And it just kind of, I don't know, like in that specific scene, Barry, it kind of showed just kind of how like young and inexperienced he was, like how much of a child he is. Like, hey, you think she'd go for a younger guy? Like just trying to like start conversation, and all of a sudden he just gets shut down. Like it's just hilarious.
Before we really get into it, I need to say my favorite scene. I'm incredibly pissed because in the original Justice League, at the final battle, Barry literally got a random Russian family that had nothing to do with the story out, waved and left. In this one, Donatsky. In this one, the man literally saw everyone die and said it even throughout the movie, I can't mess with time. He didn't say it outright, but he hinted at it. And it's something you kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on with this? It happened. Everyone died. Like even Superman died. And you see him like slowly going. He's like, Dad, I hope you're proud of me. Reverses it. And then they actually win. And it was like, oh my God, did that really happen?
You see, here's the thing. I don't know what is the best way we can try to structure this conversation without just like going all over the place. I want to try to hit on so many things, but I think the best way is to talk about it is the fact that we've already established, you and I are in agreement that this is a 4-hour-long movie, and we agree that I think it did it justice. I will say, for final comments for the length of it, I enjoyed the whole thing. The one admittance I had to have to deduct points was I felt that the first hour and a half dragged the slightest bit. To the point where but I'm not talking about to the point where it was unbearable. I'm talking about to the point where when it got to the hour and a half mark, I checked my phone to see what time it was. And I was like, if I'm doing that, then maybe I'm not that entranced yet. But immediately after I did that, it started building from there.
I had a lot of good moments like in that first hour and a half, but it did drag. To me, it was like a video game where like it was almost like reintroducing people. Like it may slow down a little bit, but then like the second half is where it ramps up and it starts to you get into all these other things.
That's why I think it achieved so well, because even though most people would say that it drags a little too much in the first half, it's still the payoff for the second half, and maybe even more than just a half of it, really does start to pay off, because things start popping off. And when they do, it's one cataclysm after another. It's one thing bleeding into the next, and it just keeps going and going, and it really keeps your attention. So you sacrifice all that buildup for the payoff, which is good in the end. And also, again, I'm saying the beginning, it dragged, but not that badly. It was just, I was just kind of like, at a certain point, I was like, this isn't bad. I just need a little bit more to happen. And then when it did, it paid off so well. But given the fact that it's such a long movie, we were able to get a lot more development for the story, let alone the characters. And I think that's the best way to go about this.
I want to start getting into these characters, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go down the list of every single character and see, excuse me, what opinions we had of them before and like how it kind of gave them justice, if any. Justice League.
Let's start with the obvious one, Batman. Because
let's
even
go with
him,
the big man.
to me, even him, he had a big change from the last one.
Absolutely.
In the first one, I guarantee you, WB was like, we did not like the dark, really gritty stuff from Batman v Superman. Let's make him a little more cheerful, like jokey and stuff. No.
Yeah. The biggest cringe moment as a Batman fan that I witnessed was in the original, like the first cut of Justice League we saw in theaters, where like Superman came back or something, and then like he looked at him, he's like, I thought you didn't like me. He goes, I don't not like you. I'm like, he would never. This is not Batman. He's not like a little schoolgirl like looking at his crush. Like, no.
It's problem is Batman is supposed to be the stern type, and when he is the leader, it's literally what he did in this movie. He didn't do it because he liked people. It's because he made a promise to Superman. It's because it's required. The Age of Heroes had to come again, and this had to be formed to stop Darkseid. Now, I don't want to say means to an end, but the greater goal was to form this team because he knows he messed up in Batman v Superman for not trusting Superman. He realizes his faults.
I mean, I will say that Batman as a character, he got, just like everybody else, more time on screen. But since they were able to go back to the original, I don't even feel like everybody, some people I've talked to about this have accused Zack Snyder of like, I don't like what they did with Justice League or what he does because he makes these movies too dark. But the thing is,
I love it.
I love it personally because I think it gives it a better sense of realism for these fantastical characters that you couldn't believe would be in real life. Like when you put them into a darker and more grittier circumstance, it allows me to attach myself to them more because I see them in a scenario that I would believe would happen in the real world. I'm not saying that pays off for like everything that happened with like mother boxes and the world ending and all that stuff, but it's just like the mentality of it all. Like it's something we can relate to given, the world that we live in now. And I feel like it, for me personally, it helps. And also it's really nice to see characters that aren't so happy-go-lucky all the time, that are kind of on the darker side of things because they're dealing with stuff that none of this should be easy, because if all this was easy, then it's not really a conflicting or compelling story at that point. And when it came to Batman, he did have some jokes here and there. They still left some things in from the the first cut of the movie because it's what Zack Snyder filmed, like the whole him picking up Barry, and then they get into the car. He's like, "What's your superpower again?" He's like, "I'm rich." I'm like, "Okay, cool, that's still there." But
those are the jokes that Batman craves, because I think back to like the old Justice League cartoons. His humor comes from basically it's not wit, like it's sarcasm or even just calling others out. And that's what he did in this. Because when Cyborg was like, I didn't think you were real, he's just like, I'm real when it's useful.
Exactly. He always has like sort of like
it's subtlety.
Batman's mysterious enough where like he either doesn't answer you or if he feels like it's necessary to answer you, he does, but he does without giving you the answer that you want to feel fulfilled because he's not giving you an inch. That's why that line, with Cyborg and everything, that's the mentality of him and everything. Like I like to look back at in the animated movie Justice League Doom, that whole thing. That's 100% the representation of the Batman that I want to progressively see as the movies go on, where he's got that mentality where like after the League finds out that the tests that they were put through were made specifically by Batman to neutralize them, and they started like telling him like, we're going to take a vote to see if we want to kick you out. Do you have anything to say for yourself? He's man enough to be like, if you like, I'm not going to be here for this, because if you guys can't see the risk in a rogue Justice League, I don't need it. Like, I'm out. I don't need this. I'm like, the fact that he's that strongly independent and he's wise enough that he's putting friendship aside for what's right and better for, the masses, that's what makes Batman, because he's logistical. He's tactical. He thinks about how he can protect the most people at once. He's not going to basically turn the world over for one person, that sort of thing. That's why the whole thing leading into resurrecting Superman, he only agreed and even proposed doing that because he knew, like, even though it sounds like a dick move, Superman, he needed to use him in order to win this battle. He needed to bring him back because he knew that even though it might be a dangerous, action to commit, it's the only way. He's the key in order to win this fight. Like, he needs the bigger gun. That's the tactical side of Batman and all that stuff. And that's not varying too much from the original film, but still, I feel like it was played off a little bit better. And also, I felt like the team naturally got to that conclusion better in this film than it did in the other one. In the other one, it happened so quickly, it deliberately just felt like fan service. This one, it made more sense.
It led to that point where it's like, before it was just like, all right, we need Superman to complete the team, so we're gonna do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But like with that, I kind of want to talk about the character who definitely like benefited the most from this, and I think you can agree, Cyborg. He benefited
very
much. Like my God, he went from like what seemed like no purpose other than to be a techie guy to like the actual heart and soul of the film.
Yeah.
And his powers were explained more. What happened to him was explained more. It was just not even that. I know who Cyborg is. I know what happens. I know who he is, but not everyone does.
Yep.
So like it was just nice to see that. And not only that, his journey through the film was pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
Because he went from just like thinking he was a monster, shutting out everybody, to like realizing he may be a little more, hopefully seeing his potential on what he could be, and then sacrificing everything to save the day. Because in the last one, it was just like, all right, I'll separate the mother boxes. In this, it was shown that it's a huge risk and that it really could backfire. He's not experienced at all, and he struggled with it a lot. And he also saw the nightmare dream that Batman saw.
Mm-hmm.
There was just so much more added to it that gave him layers, depth, and like real stakes.
Mm-hmm. And I would 100% agree, especially on the aspect of giving him more of a backstory. Better concluded why he acted the way he did later on in this film, and those are most of the scenes that we saw in the original cut. Because the fact that was taken out for the original cut, he just came off as a guy that abruptly showed up onto the scene, and he had this very cold and kind of dickish like mentality to him. I'm like, dude, why are you being so rude? Like, what is your deal? And that's what probably drove most people, including me, crazy about him, because I couldn't like him because I didn't understand him. All I knew is that he was acting this certain way, and I didn't respect it because I'm like, it felt uncalled for. But then after seeing all this development of his backstory of where he came from, how he had a long future ahead of him with his sports, and the relationship with his mother, and the poor relationship with his father now, which we finally got, and then him going through, out of everybody in this film, he went through the most loss in this in this film.
Easily.
Loses his mother in a car accident. Now he's left with only his father, and he's critically injured, and the doctors tell him he's not going to live. So his father takes drastic steps to revive him. And even when he comes back, again, you said he sees himself as a monster, and that what he's got is a curse, and maybe he feels like he should have died. What's worth living for, and all that stuff. And you have that dynamic of him losing the only person he thought cared about him, and now living with the person that never he could ever fully live up to or get their attention, which is his father. And there's that father and son dynamic that he just can't come to terms with, until the very end. And what's beautiful about it is that he's in such a dark place, and he's got these new abilities. And instead of him going off and joining up with the team and starting to do all this stuff, we get to see him slowly start to practice it, going up onto the roof and starting to fly around, get control over his powers. And then after he does, what does he do? He starts going out and doing kind-hearted deeds for innocent people. He put money in the bank account for that waitress, and that paints a good picture of even though he's in a dark place, he's good at heart. That is a fantastic way of visually showing us what kind of character this guy is, and it makes you root for him.
That's what also made me really like him, because it was with that they showed he can do a lot of things, but if it was a different person, he could be incredibly selfish, the way he looked at the bank. He could have, if it was a different person who was a little more greedy, easily take it for himself. But it showed the heart of Victor Stone. Mm-hmm. It showed who he was, and as a person to why, almost like as if you not chosen, but like why he was so desperate to live.
Yeah.
Because now it's like he actually does have a kind heart. And another line that kind of stuck with me came from Aquaman, who I actually think was better in this film too. Was when they were deciding the plan before they go to stop Stefan Wolfe for the final time. He's like, the kid just lost his father, and now we're going to send him to go into one of the most advanced techs in the universe and possibly die. Because it shows the compassion of the teammates. In the last one, it was just like, okay, we're a team. Let's go.
Yeah, it was just like Aquaman in the first movie was just like, we're going to go in and fight him. And he was just immediately at the front lines like, it's just like, seemed a little too brash.
It's not. It's just like it showed layers of the team, like how they forming bonds, showing relations. It's like Aquaman like came from this the most. Like with that line alone, it showed the compassion because Barry's like, I didn't think you cared. He's like, I never said I didn't. Yeah, like, it was just like like the trauma that Arthur's been through, like losing his mother and everything. And not only that, it's like with Wonder Woman and Aquaman had the heart to heart on the van, like. We're supposed to hate each other. He's like, I really could care less about that. He's like, I just do it. I'm trying to do what's best for me and everybody else.
Yeah, it's like every single character, in a way, has their own barriers, whether it's within themselves or within the other members of the group. And this shows all these characters not only overcoming their own personal barriers, but their barriers with becoming uniformed as a team. And since we sprinkled into that, I'm going to try to keep with the character to character. So let's talk about Aquaman for a second. I think all of that I 100% agree. But I thought what was really interesting was that I think this film did do better for him because of the fact that we still got those first introductions to him where, just like in the original film, where he came off really cold and like isolated. He didn't want anything to do with this and stuff. But unlike the original film, that actually kind of melted away into something where you could understand why he started to join up with them, because he knew that things were getting worse, and he knew that if he didn't do anything, everybody would be at risk. And because he has that kind heart as well, he felt like he had to step up to the plate, even though he probably wouldn't have wanted to. So he chose to do that. But then, seeing that compassion with the scene where Victor loses his father and that ultimate sacrifice, to keep Stefan Wolfe away from the mother box, all that stuff. I thought that was really touching. And the fact that we saw that moment where out of all people, Aquaman was the one that was just like, I feel for him. Like, why are we asking more of him? This kid just went through so much. And then
it's such
it really
small
bleeds
details.
into him.
That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it's such a small line, but it's so impactful because it shows so much depth in not depth even, just like a journey for these characters where, like you were saying, Aquaman, cold stole wall, didn't talk to anybody, but now it's like, oh shit, dude. Like, really? Like, we're really going to do it to this poor kid?
I also feel that with Aquaman's character, I think this movie did him justice in a way where it left him off on a better note, that now, after I watched it, his reasoning for doing what he did to set up for the Aquaman movie that came out makes more sense, because after he helps them kind of save the world and he sees all the loss that Victor goes through, it kind of makes him break out of his own isolated shell of the world. And because of that, he gets that feeling of like, that was so sad to see, and I don't want to take what I have for granted. And that's what inclines him at the end of the movie to go see his father, which is how the Aquaman film starts. So how it bled into that so beautifully, I thought it just did an excellent job, and it made more sense, for that film in hindsight. So I'm like, well done. It really shows this man literally coming out of his shell and maybe kind of throwing his stubbornness aside, which is really good for him, given the fact that he had such a cold mentality to himself, which is really hard to attach to a character when they don't allow you in,
Right. But to keep going with the trend of characters, I kind of want to talk about somebody who kind of didn't get a good treatment. Like someone who kind of, I don't want to say sidelined, but like really didn't benefit. And that's kind of Wonder Woman to me. To me, she was stuck with the exposition. Like, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like she was stuck more of like explaining the events of like Uxas or young Darkseid coming to Themyscira and everything. And it was just kind of like, it just didn't seem like she had a lot to do other than the really cool fighting, which I did love. Her choreographed fights were so much better. But the problem is, I feel like she was stuck more explaining who everyone was what's happening, what's coming. You know, does that make sense to me?
No, it absolutely does. But and I agree with you. But I feel like that was the only way to go about this because
No, and I get that, but at the same time, you can easily split it between her and Victor because Victor is part of the mother box.
I felt like they split it pretty well, though, given
They,
the time
no,
that
they
we had
did.
with
They
Victor.
did. They did. But my only thing is Wonder Woman is the part of the big three of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like you should kind of elevate her just a smidge, just
What
because
do you-
like give her that
what do
little
you
bit of
feel
special
that they
treatment.
didn't? What do you what do you feel that they didn't achieve for her in this film? Like,
It-
what would
it's
you
not
have
that-
wanted to
it's
see
not-
more of?
It's not that they didn't achieve anything. It's just more of like how Batman obviously went from meh to this. To me, in the last one, everyone kind of got beaten up by Stephen Wolfe, even Wonder Woman. Maybe just like a little more of her like doing something like I don't even know how to explain it, to be honest. But I did feel like she was kind of regulated to like the explaining the events and everything. I don't know. That was just me personally.
She had a strong role in giving the exposition because again, like it made more sense because of the fact that the history of like the enemy force really bleeds from her world. I mean, I know it's like kind of the worlds of the Atlanteans, the Amazonians and the men and stuff like that, but she's the only one that's kind of like old enough and is closely knit with that history to be able to give that explanation. It'd be harder to explain if somebody like Batman was trying to figure it out because, you know, he just doesn't have that background, that knowledge. So on that aspect, I feel like it makes more sense. Maybe she did a little bit too much, and that probably bleeds into the comment I said earlier about the exposition at the beginning, maybe lagging a little too much, you know, trying to get into the action. But overall, I felt like she was still okay. I do feel that
what in God's name was the music every time she showed up on screen?
I was about to bring that up. I was going to say the one flaw I did have with Wonder Woman that everybody pointed out after the fact was the fact that every little thing she did, they played the same music. And then after they told me that, I went, "Oh my God, they did! Wow!"
It's like the memes. It's like Wonder Woman just getting some orange juice from the fridge.
I literally just saw that. I saw that half hour before we did this. I'm not even joking.
It was just like everyone
looks
had
around
jokes
like,
for it. It's like,
what the hell was that?
What? It's like literally, it's all it was. Like even the one part where Barry puts the sword back to Diana, it's literally just, I don't need it for every time. Like if you show it the first time when she busted through the room to take out those terrorists, like in the beginning,
yeah,
I'm all for it. It's badass, it's awesome. But they kept going with it, even for such small stuff, and I'm just like, I know who Wonder Woman is. You don't have to keep like giving her this intro music.
Yeah. I will say because I've watched some people talk about it and they bring up some good points, and it's unfortunate because like I have so many positive things to say about the rest of the for the rest of the characters, and it's like I don't want to be unfair and just have some negative comments for, you know, the one woman of the team, Wonder Woman, because at the end of the day she was fantastic. I didn't have an issue with her. But, you know, stuff like the repetitive of the music, which I felt was a little bit overwashed. But also, when we first get introduced to her...
It's not really a nitpick. It's more just, like, funny to me, to be honest.
Yeah. But when she was, like, taking out the guys that were, like, threatening, like, the groups of children and everything...
Much better.
Yeah, like, the action was a little bit better. I think the lines, they only subtly changed them, but they were still pretty good. Like, I don't know why it was a big deal to me, but when they were, like... when, like, the final guy shoots at her, he goes, "I don't believe it." And then... I think they in the original film asked her, like said, "Well, like, what are you?" And she goes, "A believer." And then she does that. But then they went back to the original, which is like, "I don't believe it." And she's like, "Believe it." I'm like, okay, it's better. It's better than the.
It's not even that though. It's just like it's obviously tricky with Gal Gadot and her accent. But do you remember like when they bring back Superman, he starts fighting him? It's the Kal-El no.
Yeah.
She says in the original, it was like it just sounded bad. But in this one, it was like they probably went through more takes to find the better one and sped it up a little bit. It doesn't sound as bad, to be honest. It sounds a little better.
That one, I'll leave that one to you because honestly, I have no idea. I didn't even notice a difference, and I feel like your borderline might be playing on placebo effect because I think it might be the same shot.
No, it is a little. Just because I remember I watched the original, I cringed a little bit when I heard that.
I know, but here's the thing, though. You have to keep in mind that movie set you up way prior to that moment, that like you kind of were already in a mindset. Like I feel like the one thing a lot of people debate about this is that like what, just because we built, as fans, we built up our mentality of how great this movie is going to be, that what if most of our comments were kind of blinded because we've created our own personal placebo effect because we don't want to admit that it's not as great as we think. And that's really hard to get past when reviewing something like this. And I'm trying to stay fair with it. And I've told people so far from watching it that, like, I love the movie. It's definitely not the greatest movie like in the world. Like, it's not like the best thing I've ever seen, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just looking at its comparison to what it used to be, and it's definitely a further change than what it was. But I mean, Wonder Woman as a character, she still was a strong force to be reckoned with and everything. She got thrown around just as much as everybody else. And honestly, she was kind of the powerhouse until Superman came into the picture, because every time they got into a conflict, she was the
muscle.
Yeah, she was the first one to be thrown out the door, and she honestly had a handle on it. There were only a few times where she started to slip up a little bit, and then they came in to kind of help a little bit, but she had it. And that's what I like to see. She's just ripping down people.
I loved when it was like Stefan Wolfe would like kind of tease her about like him already being in Themyscira, and almost kind of like baiting her to like lose it and like lose her cool so that way he can take the upper hand, but she's just kind of brushing it off like, you lie.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of liked how like he was trying to bait her, but she wouldn't take it, and then would just like go right in.
Yeah, because like it shows her warrior mentality. She's smart enough to not be manipulated by such childish acts, which I thought was fantastic. It makes me respect her. And also the extra stuff that they added in combat wise for all these characters alone, which we can get into. But oh my god, yeah.
Wow. That whole thing was unreal, dude. That was because in the first one, it made it almost seem like they didn't, not that they didn't try, but it was like they were kind of beaten easy. And this one, it's like they showed like they gave it their all.
Yeah, like they gave it more time, so it showed how determined they are, that they just don't go down, you know? That's
not only that, it's like how important these boxes are, and that Stephen Wolfe can't get them.
When I don't know if this was in the original film, but if it was, I just completely have a bad memory in transitioning over to this one, because when they had the scene where Stephen Wolfe finally shows up and he says, "I will bathe in your fear," and they're like, "Amazons, show him your fear," and they go, "We have no fear." I'm getting chills saying it out loud.
Vibes. That was 300 vibes.
Dude, 300 vibes.
Like, Spartans, what is your profession?
Like the second they did that and you saw all of them in sync just get their weapons ready, I'm like, I know they're not going to win this battle, but oh my god,
dude, like they were ready to go. They were ready to go.
It was so good. It was so good. And also it was what was it? Wonder Woman in and of herself, like in most of the conflicts, we got to see so much more of her fighting ability that honestly paid off so much better. That like I saw her more as what she is, which is an Amazonian warrior, because like it was the one thing that was added in, but like when she's like when they're in that long tube of a tunnel and she like swings up onto the platform with her lasso, hits there, and then you see her wrap it up and like hang it behind her belt and then pull out her shield like freaking Captain America or something. I was like, oh, she's ready. Oh, she's ready. And she's like sliding, cutting at Stephen Wolfe's knees. Like she's going into like key points. They really portrayed a better sense of her being a capable warrior in and of herself. And I was like, fantastic.
I'm going to go off topic a little bit because you're reminding me now. One difference I did notice, and you'll appreciate this one, there were a lot more combo attacks. Do you know what I mean? Like with characters. Characters like leaned, like when in the final battle, I saw a lot of the times they were working together more. Because in the original,
absolutely.
it was like Wonder Woman would get her go, punched. Cyborg would get his go, punched. He's out.
Yeah,
Aquaman.
hands down.
They fought at the same time. They fought off of each other, with each other. It was a more team effort. There were more combo moves, and it's like it's like a small thing again, but it's like it's a team movie. This is why you set them up as a team.
Yeah,
not just they're not individuals.
What the original struggled with a lot was, I remember that final scene being a lot of Stephen Wolfe goes up against one character, they exchange a few punches, and then he knocks them down. Then the next one comes in. They're almost like as if like when you see like group fights in movies, there's always that one guy waiting for his cue to come in. Yeah. You know, even though their buddy is getting the shit beat out of them. But this time, the combos, that really sold it for me, because it was like while Wonder Woman's sliding, going at the ankles and like slashing up at his face, then Stephen Wolfe like kind of like goes up like he got hit by an uppercut, and then Aquaman comes in stabbing him in the back. You know, like they're all working together in between each other's movements. And then in that scene, not only did it make it more cinematic and more adrenaline filled for me, but I was like, this is literally how you should fight together.
My inner child came out. My inner child came out.
My inner child came out.
I felt completely. I was like almost. I was with friends, but I wanted to jump up and be like, kick his ass, get him. It was so good. The fact to be able to see a really good choreography at that point, and having them all of it happening at the same time and so well. I was like, this is interwoven so great. These guys are a team now. Look at this. It's a force to be reckoned with. And even when you had the final moments of Stefan Wolfe where they like kind of do that slow-mo move and they like shoot him through the portal, and as he's like, one person throws him, and as he's going through and everything, Wonder Woman's going and cutting off his head as he's passing. I'm like, dude, they got this. They're setting each other up and dunking each other down. Like they have it all like ready to go. It was fantastic. Darkseid stepping on his head was such like a Darkseid thing.
Oh yeah.
Stefan was clearly still living after his head got chopped off, but he just didn't care. He crushed himself.
Yeah.
He's like, you're stupid. Like, you suck.
The scariest thing Darkseid could have done is not only catch it with his foot and stomp on it, but then with his arms behind his back, just stare at Superman. No words, just glaring eyes until it closed.
He was so ready. I was desperately wanting him to walk through that portal and rock somebody.
Yeah. It was, oh my God, the setup for so much good stuff. For the potential future, which is the conversation we'll have at the end.
I want to save that for after, because
yeah,
I do want thoughts on that. But I'm going to let you pick out of the last two. Who do you want to talk about first, Superman or Flash?
I want to talk about Flash because Superman was mainly kind of a Hail Mary at the end, so that will bleed really into where this left.
To be honest, with Superman, there's not much to talk about other than I do like how the black suit was obviously there so much better. His importance to the team was shown, like we said, but it's not fault on Henry Cavill. It's the fault that he didn't get enough screen time, and they set it up to this because the whole thing was he's dead. They had to bring him back, and that's not a fault of the story itself, but it's like the story demanded that he bring back, but not till the end. And he could have done better with a little more screen time.
Agree, but also not fully. But again, we will tap very heavily into Superman. I want to get into Barry first, because he, just like everybody else, played a really big role.
So he played the biggest, bro.
Yeah, he saved the fucking day. But
oh my
Barry
goodness.
As a character, let's start with the basics. He got more of a backstory. We got to see more of him. We finally got that scene that was teased in the original trailers that we never got of him saving what's her name? Iris, thank you. Saving Iris and all that stuff. And even though there's not much that contributes to the story there, it gives the personality of the type of character Barry is, just the quick setup of like somebody good at heart, basically saving somebody, showing a potential for true love, which kind of would bleed into what he has to fight for in the future maybe, and then having his comedic side come back out where after everything settles, he's back in the doghouse, like in the pen with the dogs. I thought again on the humor of this film, I thought that was a good representation of execution.
Very benefited with humor.
Yeah, because it was subtle when he was like when everything slowed down and he was like trying to catch Iris, and as he was about to, he looks over and he sees like the hot dogs from the hot dog cart that got smashed. He grabs one. I'm like, at first I was like, is he really taking time to like pick food? If this is their comedy, like I get it, but that's cheap. And then after he saves her and shows him back in there, it's like, oh, he got it for the dogs. I'm like, oh, that plays off because he was thinking ahead for covering his ass and his identity. I'm like, all right, perfect. That's great. That's great. I love that.
It was so much better because the humor, he's obviously supposed to be the humorous one. That's how Barry usually is. Yeah. But it was just everything smaller. It was just small stuff that he did that made him better. And like we were talking about before with time travel, they first hinted at it when Bruce first recruited him, right? Mm-hmm. Like where like he does this thing where he calls a speed force, but he has to be careful because he could rewind stuff. And then they showed it again when they were trying to revive Superman, where he was a little late to the mother box dropping, so he had to quickly reverse and go back. That was the second hit, a little bigger, like, yo, he can do this. And then the big payoff was the ending.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Because they didn't just have they did subtle ways of queuing up that he has that ability in him without just having it be a secret until the end, where it's like, we need you to do this all of a sudden. He's like, got it. Like, no, it's set up throughout the film that he has the potential. So that way it's not too much of a surprise at the end. It's more of a, we're waiting to see not only if he's going to do, like, if he can do that, it's, oh, is he going to do it? You know, that sort of thing. And I thought that was really interesting. I love the subtlety of a lot of the decisions made in order for the grand finale payoff at the end. And I absolutely did enjoy quite a bit with his backstory, more scenes with his father in prison.
Yeah, that
painted such a better
more
picture.
Emotional. That was a lot more emotional.
Because then you see his turmoil of, like, he's practically making these poor decisions, throwing his life away in order to get his father out of prison. Even his father's telling him, be like, listen, stop doing that in order to save me. You can be so much better than what you're trying to be in order to get me out. This is my life now. Make yours better and all that stuff. And I'm like, it was such a parenting moment. And I just had so much respect for that scene and everything. And I just like, and it was hard. It was hard for Barry, for his dad to basically like look at him and just have to give it to him in black and white so that way he would get it. It's like, listen, you need to forget about me and live your life. That's got to be the hardest thing for a child and to hear from their parent.
That scene meant a lot to me, especially at the ending. At the ending, when he shows that his dad, that he got like a real job, right? Like with the forensics team.
Yeah.
That scene was in the original, that entire thing where he sits, he's like, it's a real job. But the payoff was better because you could see the excitement in his dad's face after telling him that he gave up. But Barry is learning to take like life into his own hands. Even though it's not really what his dad wanted, it's still something to learn off of.
Exactly.
And you can see, and it paid off to me a lot better because it also showed Barry is not giving up on his dad. He really believes that what happened, that was Reverse Flash. Obviously, we know that. Not everyone else does.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think all characters have a story arc, but Barry's I can better explain, and it was portrayed pretty well here, in my opinion, as he's the child of the group that's trying to come to terms with becoming his own man. That's his honestly, arc in this story. Now, not only being able to rise up to the occasion and tap into his true potential, it's not that. It's him making decisions that will be the best that will be better for him in his own life, instead of worrying about, like, you know, everybody else. It's like, who like, it's him finding himself. It's literally, who is the man he's going to be. I got Spider-Man vibes from that, with like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man talk to Uncle Ben, with all those nostalgic lines and everything about, like, these are the years where you grow into the man that you're going to be for the rest of your life. I got those vibes, you know?
Right.
It was so good.
With the ending, with this, when he taps in the Speed Force, he reverses everything. His monologue really hit home because he was still he's like, Dad, I'm going to push boundaries, and I want like you to just basically be proud of me.
Yeah,
like, that also like hit heavy with me.
Yeah, it was proving it was him proving his father right in a way, and almost like basically like getting an acceptance that, like, even though he didn't need it, he was getting from his father, because his father told him, like, you have the potential to be one of the greats. I know you do. Go do it. And now he's finally taking those actions to do it, and he's doing it, and he's just like that self-acknowledgement, be like, I got it, Dad, you know, that sort of thing. It's so touching, even though he probably knows that in that moment he could die, the whole world could end, and that, like, his dad doesn't even hear it. It's more for him. It's more for him accepting the fact that I can do this. I finally understand what you're talking about, Dad, and I'm willing to make that jump. I'm trying.
That might be one of my favorite comic book scenes, to be honest. That was just like, I like when movies do weird stuff like that. I like when they do it, and they did it right to me. They did it. They faithful to the character. That monologue, faithful to the character, monologue outside. And it obviously can have consequences, but it's something you don't know right now. And they could play off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
And also, he plays such a massive potential role for stuff that could happen, you know, in the future, which we'll get into. But Barry, one thing we didn't touch on, which we've tried to do for everybody, is also, again, the more screen time with also when he is with the team and the combat. I got to see so much more action from Barry that he actually came off as a kind of decently well-refined character in the superhero aspect of it all. Because in the original film, I didn't see him do kind of too much, and it was just a lot of him bouncing around and like avoiding stuff. Kind of seemed a little bit more scared than anything else, which you still do get that personal fear, but like, he's able to achieve a lot more. Like the scene where like they get everybody out of all the hostages out of the building, and then rubble starts coming down, and you see Barry zipping around them. like that was like, wow, that's amazing. I get to see more of Flash as a superhero character really chiming in to save the day instead of just kind of sitting in the background and having those stupid monologues we got before of like, are they bugs? I have a problem with bugs. Well, like, what is that? Like I hated that in the original film.
I also didn't like the jokes he kept having with Batman. It almost made it seem like he was trying to joke too much with Batman, and it's like, bro,
When
who
he was in
is.
his hideout.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will say that this is one thing perfect, dude. Me and you are on the same page because I was going to tap into this. Everybody has pros and cons here. My cons for Barry was that they didn't change too much for the when he's first getting initiated, because it was just kind of like I like the whole slowing down time, seeing the Batarang, looking back at him
like that.
Oh my
scene.
god,
I do like that scene.
But after he catches it and he looks at him, once he says you're the Batman, everything after that is the same, and I still don't think it was that well executed with the whole I'm putting together a team. He's like, stop right there. I'm in. I'm like, I understand he's the child of the group, so maybe kind of like how some children like could be, like he has that mentality of he doesn't think things through before he makes the decision, which is something he definitely struggles with in the film, thinking things through and making the appropriate decisions in life. But then there's like it was more for the sake of the joke of like, well, I need friends. I'm like, okay. Like it works for his character, like why he's making rash decisions, but I don't like. But they're using it more for the jokes, which I don't think still paid off that well.
Right.
But still, I was able to brush past that for all the other stuff we got. Yeah,
no, but I don't know. To kind of wrap things up with Superman, because I want to talk more about the movie itself.
Yeah.
With Superman, I loved the character because honestly, this movie made me appreciate him a lot more, and his importance to the team, his importance to actually just society as a whole. I'm watching the animated series right now, and it's making me love him more. I just wish that he got more screen time because we know he's one of those bigger guys. Like you gotta give him a little more screen time.
I think he had the right amount for two reasons. One, because he had a specific part he needed to play in this film, which was the big gun, the key to stopping the fight. If he showed up any earlier, then it would have brought up discussions of well, then why couldn't it have ended like sooner, because he's been here this whole time. Plus, the other thing is, you have to think of this character and where he's coming from, which is he's been dead for a little bit. So who knows what he experienced, being dead and then being brought back. I think they portrayed his confusion of being resurrected and having things slowly come to him. I think that payoff is better towards the end than just how it happened in the film, where he's just aggressively angry, like, do you bleed? And then he kind of has the quick turnaround. Because I feel like when traumatic shit like that, I feel like it takes time for the grooves to be smoothed out, and I think they did the appropriate amount. And debatable to his amount of screen time, I think it's important because also this movie was more for setting up the rest of the team and getting them to start to work together. And I think it would have really hurt the film if they threw Superman in early enough and strong enough that he just took the spotlight way too much, and it would have completely detracted from all the other characters, especially with all the buildup and background that we got, like we discussed throughout this conversation. So I think they did him pretty well, pretty right. I think they did a pretty decent amount. All the stuff that they had where after he got revived, they had the whole confrontation with the team. And then the only thing that of course stopped him was seeing Lois, which that I love, no matter how corny it is, because it's happened in every single iteration that I've seen Superman in, because there's always like, the love of his life that snaps you out of it. I literally watched a film. I watched the animated movie Batman Hush, and like they had a whole scene with Batman. He was like hypnotized by Poison Ivy's kryptonite kisses or whatever. The only way Batman could snap him out of it is he got Catwoman to push Lois Lane off the Daily Planet building. He's like, oh, Lois, like it's just like, it's so Superman that like of course Lois would be the key to really bring him back and jog his memory. And I thought that was really good. And taking him back to the farm, they gave that a little bit more screen time. I think the reunion with his mother, just with all the buildup, it felt nicer. It felt more heartwarming and everything. And I don't think this was in the original film, so correct me if I'm wrong, but when he finally got to see his mother again and she's like holding him, like almost on the verge of tears, but she's so happy. And then he looks at her and he says, like, kind of like, he basically gives her that spiel of like, I know I'm back, but they brought me back for a reason. I need to find out why.
No, it wasn't.
So that, when I heard that, I was like, that wasn't in the original film. It's fantastic here, because like, that was so great, because it's like, you know how hard that is for him to know, like, all this finally comes back to him. He's finally feeling himself again. He sees his mother. He gets to hold her again. And then he has to look at her and be man enough to say, I have to go do something dangerous. And I know that's not what you want to hear right now, but I have to. And she gives that smile and a nod, like, I know this is the man you were meant to be. Just, you know, like, and just having the mother's blessing of like, you know, like, I believe in you, but I don't want to lose you. It was like, oh my God, that's so good. That's so good. You know, it was so nice. The one drawback I'll have is I love the black suit. I'm glad they did it.
I love it.
But I wish they would have done little things to have him make that decision, like to have that decision make
show
more
why
sense.
He was wearing it.
Exactly. Because when he just kind of went to a ship, walked through and saw all the suits available, including his old one that's now all of a sudden hanged up in his ship, not damaged. Like, who showed up? Did Lois like break in, fix it, and hang it back up on the hanger?
He's got like 20 others on standby.
That's the thing. Like, if he had like multiples of the same suit, I would ignore it. But like, this is a nitpicky thing. He has all these other iterations of a suit, and then he has his original one that's there. Makes no sense why it's there. It would have been a lot better if he saw his, like, a blank mannequin where his suit used to be, and then he turned around to the lights of the door opening to the black suit, like, guess I'm rocking this now. Or I would have loved if, while he was at home, like, Lois was in possession of the suit, because we saw in her apartment in earlier scene she was holding his cape. So like, it would have been nice if like maybe they, like, while he was at the farm, like his mother or something, like, gave him the suit before he went off, and it had like the hole in it, and she's just like, I tried to fix it, but things damn near indestructible or something. It's like, don't worry, I got it. And then he goes to his ship to like, what else do I got? You know, I know that doesn't affect the story that much, but it just helps with that decision, because how it was portrayed, he just kind of picked a black suit to pick the black suit. Like, I'm feeling something different today, you know? Like, this is a new me. new life, new me. You know, that's the vibe I got from it.
All right, I do want to ask you one question. Do you think that Stefan Wolfe was redeemed, and do you think that Darkseid played a big enough role? I say yes, because it did it. Darkseid, if you make him the main villain, he can't be second fiddle or share the movie with Stefan Wolfe. Mm-hmm. It has to be like, yo, he gonna mess you up. So I am glad it was like, if you fail, he's coming, and he's so much worse. And it was the fact that the fast forwards basically show he's going to win almost. He will win. Yeah. But you need to make sure it doesn't happen, and it can lead to something. Yeah. But my problem is they need to say yes to like wanting to finish it. Yeah.
So here's the thing. On the topic of Stefan Wolfe and Darkseid, one thing I'll start it off with by saying is there's been a lot of talk about people not really getting what the big deal was, and it's like Darkseid didn't get enough screen time, and that's coming from two different places, I feel, which is people that are fans like us, where it's like we would have loved to see more of him because he was so badass. It's just we want to be spoiled. And there's others that are like, from a talking standpoint, it's like the whole movie talks up this imminent threat of Darkseid, but yet we never get him. Don't you think it's a little lackluster? But the reasoning of the film is because of the fact that it's not something we're unfamiliar with. It's something we've accepted in the past, and this is like bleeding into like the Avengers. Every single movie was a bad guy that would potentially bleed into the ultimate baddie, Thanos. Why were we accepting of it then, but now criticizing it now? Like, I know that we're not trying to bleed these two worlds together, because that's where this film originally kind of fell flat, because it was trying to mimic what other movies had done. But in proper storytelling, that one aspect does work. So I don't feel that is a good motivation to be able to criticize it on, because that to me is still good proper storytelling in a way, because you don't just throw the big man out immediately. You want that to be built up, because you want to build that suspense. So I think his screen time was accurate enough. Yes, I would have loved to see more, because I can't get enough of it. But I think it's one of those bittersweet things where it's like, when it was over, I was like, I would have loved to see more of him, but I know that was plenty. I know.
I loved when they just stared at each other. It was like Darkseid and
Exactly.
Superman of the Justice League. It's like, are you joking me? Because
Yeah.
he's like this close to the anti-life equation, and then he's like, Desaad is just like, all right, but there's no way to get there. He's like, we will just use the old ways. It's a pain in the ass, but I'm getting there if I have to.
And that's the other thing is like some people debate. I'm like, you could have just when that opened, Darkseid could have like bolted through, and then we could have had that scene. The thing is, you got to think Darkseid is a character. He's not a brash character. He's like Batman. He's mentally, he's a dangerous guy. He's logistical. He plans things out. That's why he's able to build armies and start wars. He's tactical. So he's not going to see a brash opportunity to run out against a team by himself and he's going to go for it. No, he's going to make sure all the cards are in his hand.
He sees himself as a god, and he will sacrifice anyone in his army
to
like go warm you up. He will basically send pawns to do shit, and then he will do whatever. He sees himself as an actual god,
which is what makes him, one of the baddest and one of the evilest, because he's got a strong egotisticalness about him, but he's also got a strong selfishness about him.
That's why, like in the Age of Heroes, like the first time when he almost died, I was hyping him up to my brother, and my brother's like, he lost that quick, and I remembered this is like before he really turns into Darkseid. This is before like everything. So now it's like you have this guy who resorts on all these resources, armies, and everything, and it's like now you hype you. What he goes from kind of like you were saying, he just kind of goes head first in, like going to do whatever. But now it's a long con. It's like what he can do.
Which shows shows character development for Darkseid, because now it shows he made a mistake before and that cost him in the past, so he's not going to make the same mistake again. It was a beautiful interpretation of it.
Yeah, but I do also appreciate Desaad, because he's basically the dude, like, you're not talking to Darkseid, you can talk to me. And obviously
Darkseid doesn't have time for you, son. What do you want?
Shit to his own will.
I keep seeing memes of Desaad. It's just like Desaad is the type of motherfucker that like asks the teacher if we got homework.
Remind the teacher about the homework, bro.
Yeah, I was just like.
He's definitely like the tattletale who like hypes himself up, but like the way he was portrayed was perfect, because it's like, you're not going to talk to him, you're going to talk to me, and then I will make sure it's okay if I can talk to him.
And also that's fantastic, because you got a diversity of the characters. You see a difference between Desaad and Stefan Wolfe, and I think that's a good portrayal to have for Desaad, because of course, since Desaad is one of the few that are his right-hand men that has the privilege, I guess, to be at Darkseid's side, like it shows if he's that submissive to like doing things for Darkseid, it just shows how much more mentally powerful Darkseid is at manipulating people to be on his side, to let them all know that he's in control. So it's just all levels of threat that they're ticking off with boxes there. I
do love how like it showed the power Darkseid had when it was like it went from Desaad, and then Stefan Wolfe reveals he knows where the anti-life equation, and he goes away screaming at Desaad, but then he sees everyone kneeling and then sees Darkseid. He immediately unarmors himself, and he like goes like, I respected that, because that was a nice touch that I even got from the trailers when the Snyder Cut was going to release. Seeing that bowing and the armor going away, that also showed that like Stefan Wolfe couldn't betray him, because all the power, even like the physical power that he gets, it's from Darkseid, and Darkseid can choose to take it away or not. So it shows he's at his mercy. Some people are saying that maybe Stefan Wolfe wasn't redeemed because now this played off more as he was just trying to find acceptance with somebody that was special to him, and the Justice League were kind of monsters for taking that away. But in a way, I mean, yeah, sure, I get that, but also it's better than what we got, which is just a guy showing up to just blatantly be evil and doing everything selfishly himself. It showed a lot more motivation. There was no motivation.
Motivation in and out the second we got him. And also, it made me kind of feel for Stefan Wolfe a little bit, because he's trying to get his pride back.
You felt for a dude who came from a planet called Apocalypse.
Yeah. I mean, that's true.
You felt for a man where, like, if you laugh on that planet, Darkseid will kill you with his Omega beams.
What about Granny Numbnuts, huh? What about Granny Numbnuts?
I'm not even getting to her.
She didn't do anything. She stood there with her cane.
A second of screen time. She had a second.
I was hoping to get her to speak, but that's neither here nor there. It didn't detract from it at all. It was cool to just have her there. But Stefan Wolfe as a character, since finishing up this topic, I think he was portrayed a lot better. First off, visually, they went back to the original look. and it was amazing.
Oh my!
I loved it so much more. The interactive armor, the arrows from the Amazonian sticking in him, and then he flexes, and the things just pinch him and snap them all off. I'm like, dude,
because like the old one made him look so like claymation-y and like
generic.
It was just a generic villain, and then with this one, it was unique in the armor, like you were saying, and he's an alien, so like the horns weren't just horns; they were like part of his head.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I liked. Like, why did they think it was a better decision to just make him like just a giant human with a weird chin and armor? Like, make him unique, make him a creature, make him unrecognizable or familiar to this world, make him be a visual conflicting threat, like let him be his own thing. Nobody in that film looked anything like Stefan Wolfe, which makes him more unique visually as a character because there's no other ones like him. I respected that.
And to kind of top off with like Stefan Wolfe and Darkseid, my God, when it showed the nightmare scene where Cyborg saw Darkseid winning, and everything he did was just like, oh my God, because you saw him obviously kill Lois, but then he was smart enough to be like, "You good, homie?" to Superman, recruiting Superman to his side. And then you get him taking over completely, killing all the people in Atlantis, Themyscira, and everything. And it's just only them left.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, it showed. It showed a lot with nothing almost. It showed so much with so little of him.
Oh, yeah.
And then it shows him like he's coming. Like he's really coming.
Yeah.
But another person I kind of want to talk a little bit, not too much, because it really wasn't it too much.
Alfred?
No.
We have to before you say his goddamn name.
Don't.
I will quickly say Alfred also was benefited a lot more because he was on screen a lot more, and I got to see more relationship between him and Bruce, and getting those lines of like Bruce saying to Alfred, it's like Alfred's like the doubting one, trying to put some sense into him, and he's just like, I'm finally not thinking logistically, I'm putting it all in the faith. I'm like, I got more of a dynamic between them, and now I can respect that version of Alfred more than I did because he got the appropriate time for me to paint a better picture of the relationship between him and the entirety of the team. So well done on that. Now moving away from it, yes, go ahead.
Martian Manhunter.
So here's the thing. I was jumping for joy when I first saw him, but that was because it was a surprise I didn't see coming. After the fact, I better analyzed it in context, and I found out that he seemed very forced in, and his appearances didn't make any sense whatsoever. Let me explain. He pretends we have this beautiful scene between Martha Kent and Lois Lane in her apartment where Lois is in mourning and she can't seem to break out of the depression she's in after losing her Clark. And then Martha's the one that has to step in and give her a beautiful speech saying, we're both struggling, but you have to be strong. And basically saying, I'm rooting for you, trying to give her her power back of like, you can climb out of this, And it felt so touching. It felt like these two people coming together over somebody that they loved. And then it's completely ruined from her leaving and then turning into Martian Manhunter. I'm like, that made no sense because like, why would?
But look at me. Can I tell you something? Sink in the chair. I don't care. He's in the movie, and guess what? If the Snyderverse continues, he will be in the sequel, and I am all for it.
Listen, you have to agree, though. I'm excited that we saw him, and I'm excited that he was going to be in the future ones, but you have to admit that the two times we saw him, they were forced in. They didn't do it well enough. I
do wish he had more depth to the story. Like, yes. You're right. Just him showing up.
He deliberately felt like he was thrown in. And the scene towards the end with Batman, that was just deliberately thrown. He just showed up. But I'll get past that. Fine. But when they decided to first,
originally it was supposed to be Green Lantern. Originally it was supposed to be Green Lantern.
That's what I heard as well. But I'm just saying he only showed up twice, and there was only the one time when he pretended to be Martha that it affected the story in a negative way. So because it made no sense, it took away from that scene prior to it and everything, and also made me doubt like Martha as a character because basically, if that was Martian Manhunter, then the only scene we get is her at the end. And I'm like, it would have been really nice to see
The
Martha.
beginning and at the end, yeah.
Yeah, because it would have been nice to see Martha.
You're gonna tell me you're gonna tell me, I understand that, but you're gonna tell me you'd rather see more of Martha Kent than like the main cast of the Justice League.
No, see, you're twisting my words, and honestly, I feel threatened.
These are the words. These are the words you say.
I'm saying that I'm glad we got Martian Manhunter, but they could have done it better. They did not do that well at all, in my opinion. I think they should have left the Martha and Lois scene alone because that did so much for Lois's character and so much for Martha as a character, and that is Martha as a character, because Martha is a strong woman that was always the guiding principles for Clark. That's why he's the man that he is. So to see that, that's not surprising, and it's great to see. So the fact that it was revealed it was the Martian Manhunter throws that all away. But I could have lived with him showing up at the end just for the sake of like, oh, the post-credit feely vibe of like, oh, I'm probably going to be in the next one. It's fine. I'm just saying they could have done it better. I'm glad he was in it, but they could have done that better. That's
one disappointment I have to say, there was no Green Lantern. You hinted at him. No, but like a real one.
There was a Green Lantern.
I will hit you with this flip-flop.
I will stop it with my willpower of this ring.
Bro, you can't. No, because
ring.
Green Lantern is a pivotal part of the actual Justice League. He's been in every one, and you exclude him? How do you? Because I was hold on. I am spoiled. I'm allowed to be spoiled.
No, you're not. Grow up.
I've waited for this movie, and I've been a fan.
Your father doesn't want you to waste your life away. Grow up.
I've waited for this moment my whole life. How dare you? If you had Jon Stewart, I'm not even saying Hal Jordan. Jon Stewart would have fit much better in this film. You had Jon Stewart in this film as like a Hail Mary last one. Like Superman didn't show up. Almost like, where is he? He's not showing up, but somehow Green Lantern shows up. Obviously, it would be weird caked on, but if you found a way to interwove that, it could have been like one of Batman's backup plans that he always has. He always has one of those. Mm-hmm. It could have been really cool. And also, they teased Kilowog in the nightmare sequence. You saw the suit. Like, did you see that part or no?
What part was it?
It's when, I don't mean to keep going to this, but when Cyborg was in the thing and he saw the nightmare, it's when Superman was holding Batman's cowl up, like it was a quick and you'll miss it scene. You see Kilowog on the floor, dead.
I didn't even see him, dude.
Go back to that scene where like Cyborg is having the quick flashes. If you where he's Batman or Superman's holding up the cowl, where like you see the Hall of Justice is destroyed, you see Kilowog. He's full in suit and everything. Like actually.
Oh wait, no, I do remember seeing it now. I remember seeing lanterns laid out on the floor. Yeah.
Kilowog was there, which means they exist. Give me Green Lantern content.
I know that was never in the question. But again, what my debate towards you is we've already had this conversation throughout this entire thing. It's the fact that this movie is already long enough, already supplying so much. You need, as a writer, like as a storyteller, you have to, the best way to go about it is give away enough without giving away too much. I know that as a viewer, that sucks, but this is one of those things where I personally feel like asking for a Green Lantern thing is just asking for too much, because again, at the time, this was meant to be something that would lead into everything else. So what we got was to open the possibility, saying that this could happen. We're just upset the fact that we might not get that where everything is left standing, but it doesn't take away from the film. I don't think.
But my thing is, with what you're saying, it was supposed to lead out everything. We're obviously, it's a 50-50 toss-up right now with tweets going around saying restore the Snyderverse, do this, do that. So let's say WB really just says, no, this is it. We're going in a different direction.
Then we have a riot.
Because here's my problem. Here was my main problem with what the dude at Warner Media said. He said,
are you reading it? Are you quoting it right now?
No. I just heard it and I was angry.
You better get these words right, or else you got a lawsuit on your hands.
I'm not quoting him exactly, but he said we have a good plan in place to make it to not copy Marvel, but in the direction of what Marvel has done. I don't want Marvel content. I don't. I want DC content, something different, unique, and honestly, the two top comic book movies right now are this, like rated comic book movies are this and The Dark Knight. Why, you may ask? They're different and unique. Joker is one of the best DC things to come out in forever. Why? Different, unique, not Marvel. I don't want more Marvel stuff because that's what they tried with the original Justice League. It's what they tried with Wonder Woman 84. It's what they tried with a lot of different films.
You need to understand that they need to make these movies generic enough so that way young little children can come and watch it.
Make them all rated R. I will pay off the
Make
box
them all
office.
rated R. I don't have kids.
R.
I don't have kids, but I swear, if I had a bunch of children and they made this like these movies so dark that it's like it wasn't appropriate for children, guess what? My kids are staying home because I'd look at them and go, "Yeah, this was made for me." Okay, you just got here.
Daddy needs to go to work. Daddy,
right. Quiet. It's Dad.
Quiet. It's like, Dad, it's Batman. And you're like, damn right, it's Batman.
You shut up while he talks. Oh, I'm going to sprinkle this in really quick. I forgot to say this.
Because I forgot to say this.
I know, but I forgot to say this for Batman.
They hyped it up so well, and the nightmare scene at the end got me intrigued enough.
I know, and it did. And we'll talk about that in a second, but let me just say this one thing.
Hold on, you went quiet. Hold up.
Uh-oh.
I can hear you now.
Okay. The one thing I saw a subtle change in right off the bat, which I actually appreciated, was they toned down Batman's modulated voice a lot, and I appreciated that.
Yeah,
because it was so annoying in the other films, and now we get a little bit more of a natural sound from him. I'm like, good. I get what they were going for, but it was too much originally. It kind of took me out of the performance a little bit. So that good notes on that part. I will say that. But let's talk about, since we're rearing the end here, let's talk about that nightmare scene and the future of what's going to happen with everything.
I loved the exchange between Jared Leto and Batman.
Fantastic.
I thought that
was the scene that was reshot, by the way.
That was one of my favorite, only because what we ended up getting was, it wasn't like what you were saying where it's like he's dead and it's like a constant reminder in his head. It's like and it's not even like a we need each other thing. It's literally just like Batman's like, I'm going to kill you at the end of this.
Dude, I swear to God, some people are probably debating if he would really say that, but like when I heard Batman look at him and say, I promised Harley Quinn and she died in my arms that when I kill you, and I will fucking kill you. I was in my chair, and when he said that, I went, oh my God, he's so serious.
No, but I loved how you saw Jared Leto's face. Like he was a little shook, but then he realized like
he had the little shaky hand.
Yeah, it's like, you ain't gonna do it. Dude. But you could tell it's like he's a little concerned, like, I don't know.
I know. What was funny was Jared Leto, he hands him the card after that conversation. Once he takes it from him, his hand's shaking a little bit, but it's like almost like deliberately as like a joke towards him, and he goes, you almost had me. I was like, ooh, these guys are just gonna fucking wreck each other. I know it. Oh, I know it.
Oh my God, it was just, that whole thing was just amazing. I also just loved the looks of everybody, like Cyborg, Flash, Mira.
Mira looked the same. Mira looked the same.
Given
when what's happened with that,
killed by Stefan Wolfe, I was like, do it.
People are like literally taking screenshots of when Stefan Wolfe like smacks her up against the wall. They take that screenshot and they said, I don't know why everybody's against Stefan Wolfe and saying how he's so evil. He's doing God's work. And I'm like, yo. Oh, no.
Like he's doing the people justice. He's doing Johnny Depp justice.
Johnny Depp's going to be in the next film. Let's do it.
Oh my God, dude, I would laugh. But in all honesty, I loved the film. I really did. And
yeah.
All right, Travis, you ready?
No.
What do you rate the film?
Wait. Okay, now I'm ready.
What do you rate the film out of 5 anti-life equations?
I'm going to give it 3 batarangs.
Out of 5?
No, 3 batarangs. Those are like multiplied by 1,000,000, so it's like better than expected.
Ooh.
But if it's out of anti-life equations, I'm going to give it a 4.7.
You're a little more. I said 4.5, 4.3.
I was going to do 4.5, but everybody always does half notes. I just want to be different.
I'm giving it the half note only because I loved almost all of the film, but I do agree it dragged a little bit at times.
Yeah, I give it a high ranking without being perfect because at the end of the day, I have to be man enough to know this isn't perfect. You know, there's a lot that
there's a lot of
been
scenes
a little bit better.
where we could kind of just like, I think I lost again. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of scenes where like you kind of just could trim it off or cut it out, and it's just kind of like it a little too much.
One scene that they could have taken out altogether and it wouldn't have changed a damn thing is the scene where Aquaman saves the dude and then he's walking on the pier and disappears into the water. I didn't need any of that.
Not only that, the one where like Aquaman leaves and the girls are singing. Did I need that?
I get that like he has a relationship with them and they like worship him, but like it went on for a minute and why do we have to watch her like smell his sweater?
I'm not gonna lie, I skipped ahead. I was like, oh god.
Oh, you didn't even watch the film then. You skipped?
I skipped 5 seconds. I saw my mistakes.
I'm the purest out of the group. You skipped over Greg when he watched it. He watched the first 2 hours and then went to sleep and watched the second 2. And I went, you're ruining your own pacing. You're not going to have the same experience. I watched it in one sitting. All right. Because I knew the second I hit play, I was like, everybody in this house, shut up. Shut up. This is not being interrupted. Okay.
Okay.
So excuse me. But yes, I do agree that there were definitely, even though long movie, it could have been shaved down a little bit, but still I appreciated everything that was there. The nightmare scene, I will just say to finish up with this, was I loved seeing where they were going to potentially go with this because the group of characters that they had having to work together with Batman, Cyborg, Flash, Mira, and then Deathstroke. It's interesting because you got Mira, who's practically a loose cannon because it's established that she basically lost her loved one, which is Arthur, to Darkseid or Superman. And I'm really feeling it was Superman.
You have Deathstroke who hates Batman.
Exactly. So you have Mira, who's an uncontrollable cannon because she's fighting out of revenge, which could really gunk up the works with whatever would happen in the future. You have Cyborg, who is still the key to trying to bring everything down. So they do need him, but also he's kind of like a tracking device, basically for this enemy force. Then you have the Flash, who is a very important role because he has the ability to warn the others in like different time zones and open up the parallel universes and all that stuff. And then since you have that dynamic with Deathstroke going up against and teaming with Batman, along with having the classic Batman and Joker scenario, you have even more of an uncontrollable playing card to do with. Like, this is a chemical concoction of a team. This is a time bomb just waiting to explode.
This is
like one flick and it's going off.
Team.
Exactly. You're seeing these characters put into a very severe situation and you're like, this can only end badly. So that's what makes it very, very interesting. And that's why, getting into the ending of this conversation, I really do hope that we do see some more films like this in the future. And that is debatable with the topic that now that the fans have the power to be able to get this movie made, it's what's going to happen for the future of the Snyderverse, basically. And are we going to get the chance to see any more of this, any more iterations, even more elaboration on the cliffhangers we were left with?
Well, it's already trending. It's literally already trending.
I know, but there's a difference between trending and like, it's kind of, it's a weird.
That's how it started last time.
I know, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. The circumstances are different because when this happened, they already had most of the footage that Zack Snyder needed to just finish his film. So I think that was why the companies were a little bit more lenient towards, all right, just let them finish it. But now that they have to, dish out the money and everything to try to start from start over again to make another film, even though they've established stuff in the past, that's more of a leap of faith off of solely like what we're all rooting for. And at the end of the day, it's like, what's gonna make the companies like money and everything, which I'll tell you right now,
I'll tell you right now why they will. Because you're noticing that already everyone almost loves this film. I haven't really met someone who said, I hate it.
Well, you stay away from those people.
You say they're outsiders.
They are.
They're disgraciados.
I don't want them near me. I'm going to adjust this camera a little bit so I don't see the side of my monitor bouncing.
I guarantee you they're going to be happy with what they have planned. They're going to go forward with a Marvel movie, and it's going to bomb, and they're going to give the people what they want because what the people want is this. The reason you make these movies, I hate to say it, is money. And if the money is in Zack Snyder's universe, which everyone now is desperately wanting to finish, there's going to be some money in there.
Wait, hon, you think that what is going to happen is they're going to try to make a movie again off of the ways that haven't been working in the past, and then they're going to
I don't know.
course correct?
No, tell me right
Because
now.
I think this was the learning process.
This was the learning process, but what's happened is even Zack Snyder, you can see in his work, he had his old tropes, but he did learn from his mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You saw that. You saw the pacing was better. You saw the characters were more understood and everyone had plots. What I'm saying is both Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder have had shaky, like, recent memory, right, of their films.
Yeah.
But both are realizing their mistakes. If they come together and realize what can make money and what can do better for the fans, then it'll come true. Because Warner Brothers' hack and slash of scenes has obviously destroyed their reputation.
Yeah.
It has destroyed their reputation. And Zack Snyder needs to keep doing these good films in order to stay afloat. Does that make sense?
No, no. I definitely understand that. It's just there's a lot of variables that can go against us. If there's enough of a following, enough of a want for it, then since it shows promise, they're probably going to go forward with it. It's just a matter of if the parties at fault that allowed this to fall through the cracks originally are wise enough and man enough to basically say, we were wrong, let's learn from our mistakes, let's give more creative freedom to the creator, the person that we hired. If this, as a learning process, which it should be, it's very blatantly is. If the appropriate parties can learn from this, then there's only just really positive potential for what could happen in the future. And if those parties that have the power to get this made are willing to take that step, then but it's a lot of just it just really depends on if they have learned and if they're even willing to do it. And you got to think, half these people, even the actors, are they willing to come back after everything that happened?
Well, I think some are, but here's my thing. If this was released, they released it on HBO Max because it's a safer bet and it's able to boost their numbers.
Yeah.
If you post the
servers actually crashed the first night it came out because everybody was trying to hop on and watch it.
That's what I'm saying. There was a lot of people interested in this, but now that you have them hooked, you have them intrigued. If you put out a Legion of Doom sequel, which is clearly what the next one set up until Darkseid ultimately comes, if you just give them that, if you have a situation where you have them hooked in a story, not what Marvel does in case of its movies in the sense that like their style and everything, but what they have done and able to hook audiences to keep coming and coming. And that's what you need to do. Because right now you have them hooked and here's your opportunity. Drop one little movie in theaters. Because this movie to me was the equivalent of Infinity War. So many people knew about it. So many people were hyped and almost everyone universally loves it.
Yeah.
And it sets up for a sequel of a bigger bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
wrong.
I
will say, no, I totally agree with you. Again, it's just up to the people that have the power to actually pull the trigger on this. Are they gonna do it? Because really, it's not. We can literally make an uproar all we want, but it's pretty easy for them to just be like, you know what, whatever, guys, we gave you what you want. Stop being spoiled brats. Like that is a strong possibility, and it's just we all got to be ready for the inevitable, the potential of that possibly happening. Hopefully, it doesn't. Hopefully, we get more of these films in the future because now I think it's finally course corrected to something better than we were given, and something that can show a lot of promise for the DC universe in the foregoing future.
I don't think we were being crybabies. I think we just wanted justice.
But I think on that note, that is the best way that we could probably wrap this up here.
Yeah.
Honestly, Nick, everybody that decided to watch this video, we want to say thank you for tuning into Nerd Culture once again, watching this. This probably was not an easy watch unless you're a hardcore fan. An hour and a half, roughly. We could have made. This is our version of a Snyder Cut for a live stream.
Honestly, right, this is already a quarter and a half through it.
Yeah, this is. You could have spent this time watching a quarter of Snyder Cut. What are you guys doing?
No, we did the length time of the original one.
Yeah.
We did the length time
and this was better than the original one. So make sure you watch this video instead of watching the original Snyder Cut. And if you haven't, I would have definitely recommend now, even that we spoiled almost everything, not everything, but most of it. Go watch the Snyder Cut if you haven't already. Let us know down in the comments what you think about the film overall. You know, what did you think about the time of it? Was it a little too long for you, or was it the perfect amount? Did you like a specific character? Did you think the development was a lot better? Do you want to see the future of the Snyderverse come to fruition. Let us know all your thoughts down in the comments, because we really want to talk about this one. We would really love to hear from you guys. And also, while you're at it, make sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, whatever the social media allows you to do nowadays. And again, follow us at It's Nerd Culture. And keep in mind that we're always doing stuff like this, live streams, Let's Plays, Twitch streams, all that good stuff. So check out our stuff. And I don't really know what else to say. So I want to thank Nick for hopping on to talk about this with me, because we are basically psychopaths when it comes to this stuff. So we will literally
see that one part. Did you see
it? Did you see
it?
Oh my God, Nick, get the house next door's on fire. Come see this, Bick. I'm watching a movie right now. Give me a minute. But we want to appreciate you guys once and for all for coming in and watching it, and tolerating our just babble forever. And we want to thank you, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Leave those comments. We can hour and a half. That's nothing. We can talk about this more. So
there's only one way to end this. CW
Flash Run. I'm doing it.